Now, there's no build process or there's no deploy process built into the Gulp file, but that would be something that would be very easy to add. And a lot of that's because your finished site actually lives inside of the dist folder, which can then basically just be piped to whatever deploy script that you want. So I'll kind of, as an example of how to extend the Gulp file, we will do exactly that. Oh yeah, and this one is a private. This one is a private repo. Actually, why is it? That's interesting. Okay, well, so let's get in here. Let's put this in Sublime so I can make it bigger. So here's our Gulp file. So what we want to do is we want to add a deploy step to our Gulp file. So to do that, we're going to add a dedicated deploy task. So we will just put it here at the bottom. And we're going to say, so for this one, we'll actually make this one a dedicated task just to keep this simpler. So we'll call this one deploy. You can still add task dependencies, right? So this is kind of the other model for defining kind of dependencies in Gulp tasks, is that you give it a name, a set of dependencies, and then the code to run. So you can still do that, but also we can now be more explicit and we can do the whole like Gulp series, Gulp parallel if we want to. In this case, our only dependency is build, so we just have to run build. But if we had multiple things to run, we could actually pass Gulp series in here and we could do that exact same stuff. But in this case, all we need is build. So, and we are using arrow functions here. So, and our indentation is wrong. We want 2 tabs. So for our deploy process, we kind of only need 2 things in it for the most part. There's other little bells and whistles you can add if you want, but we generally only need 2 things for that. We need to load in our dist folder, and then we have to pipe it to a some plugin that's going to deploy it, right? So we're going to say gulp.source dist. Note that we pass in dist as a folder. We don't pass the files of the folder because we just want to copy the folder wholesale. We also don't need the relative path there. And then let's say that we're using, so for a lot of our stuff, we use rsync. So there's a Gulp rsync plugin, which is just a wrapper around the rsync command. And for that, you're going to have like, you're going to have some kind of like, thing that you're deploying to, right? So you're going to have some kind of server that you're deploying to. You're going to have some kind of username. In this case, it's using an SSH key, so there's no more configuration there. But there are Gulp plugins for FTP. There are ones for S3, and you can like pass in like a name of an S3 bucket or the name of in the name of your different Amazon credentials. So a deploy script in Gulp is generally only going to look like this. One thing I do like adding to our deploy processes, I do this for Foundation when we deploy our documentation, is I add a confirm step. So there's a cool plugin called Gulp Prompt, which can actually let you add like a yes/no prompt or like a text input field in the middle of a plugin process. So for Gulp Prompt, you can pass in a confirm thing, and then I say like, make sure everything looks okay before you deploy. So this is just kind of the extra reminder to the developer, like, hey, you should maybe check this real quick to make sure nothing looks busted because you're deploying to some other server. So I like putting this in here, and then basically the stream will not continue until they type yes. And if they type no, it cancels the stream. So I like putting extra things in here like that to you just kind of make people work with a little bit more caution. But once again, because we put everything in a dist folder, it's very easy for us to just take that entire folder and then upload it wherever we want. So now that we have a deployed task, we would probably be changing our package JSON to kind of work with that. So we kind of back out to our package JSON here. Oh, that is not going to select everything. This is going to select everything. And then what we're doing here is, maybe in this case, instead of having a build task, maybe we have like a deploy task, or we could just add a new one. So then it's, Gulp deploy with a production flag. So this would be one way to do that. There are other ways to do it because you have these like gulp.series and gulp.parallel things now. Like you can set up things where like you conditionally only run some tasks depending on if you have a flag or not. So there's a few different ways you can do it. This is probably the simplest way. You basically just have one task. It runs build first, and then it goes through its whole deploy process. So there's kind of a quick example of how you would actually extend the Gulp file out.